Good Tuesday morning, and welcome to Ice Age TV, the internal combustion engine age YouTube channel that talks about all my cars and trucks and SUVs and the motorcycles and the dogs and the pond and the tractors and the attitudes. Wow, beautiful out here. Tuesday morning there. Good to see everybody. Watch my channel. Hope you're having a blessed, great day today. And got my new Harley signature hat on that tried to kind of follow the Fast Johnny theme. I dug up one of my older pullovers of the Harley Davidson Fast Johnny theme colors. So I'm trying to be the Fast Johnny guy. I'm trying to duplicate the colors, the theme. And yeah, as always, thanks so much for those that watch my channel and tune in and listen to me blah 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 and share my stories and my craziness and my addictions. Yeah, I hear you loud and clear, but boy, what it's just incredible. I'd have to say we're not gonna have a winner. If you're a landscape guy, snowplow guy, you're probably so bummed, because if you have that type of equipment, man almighty, can you make some money? You can make some money, but here for last at least 2-3 years, just not much of anything up in this area. It isn't breaking my heart, because having those big snowstorms is a total bummer in so many ways. And it's good for me. If you actually watch some of my videos, you having to clean up all these vehicles. I mean, Jesus Christ, it's like owning a car lot. And so, oh my gosh, it's always the adventures, always the stories. There's always a story. There's always a story with our cars. Driveway's in a shambles. And here come the puppies. So yeah, what a great, just beautiful freaking day. So what are we talking about today? Yesterday, conversation was old, and I'm sure a lot of people go, hey, stop it! Would you just leave her alone? And so I'm sure a lot of people would be like, yeah, you're just talking about the new conversation today. Well, no, that's not so accurate, because I have had conversations of new before. So what do we talk about? What do we name it today? And I thought to myself, you know what would be a great thing is to have the name conversations. And here, Keith, go get a ball. Just go get a ball. There you go. Just participate. Just focus on the ball, okay? Can you do that? Let's get you guys upstairs, because you're up to no good this morning. He is so wound up. I mean, he is wound up, man. Good Lord. So, anyways, I thought the conversation this morning could be called, let's go. This was kind of the wrong thing to do, because he sits here and plays the little guard game. That's okay. Come on, let's go. Come on, Junior. Come on, let's go. Come on, babe. Nope, you're not going to do that. I'll turn the heat on so that while I'm downstairs talking, I'll have a nice, just get out of the way. Just get out of the way. Come on, Junior. I will have a nice, warm office. And the dog has something to gnaw on besides all my stuff, right? As we go back downstairs. And there's the, no, you guys are so dumb. Dummy dogs. No, Keeper. Oh my gosh. It's a project, man. Being me isn't easy. I'm sure you'd be like, yeah, being you isn't easy as well. So, as always, what can we talk about? The name. I thought to myself, for all of us, we were brought in this world, and your parents named you. And I'm sure some people love their name, and some people maybe not so much. Some people have even changed their name. Sure, you know that. If you're one of these popular people that's in the movies, rock star, whatever it may be, a lot of those people change their names. So when you hear about these people, it isn't really their name. They changed it because it sounded cooler or different. Even for me, when I was born, my parents named me my first name, which is actually Gary, if anybody out there listens to my channel. I say Ice Man all the time. So my first name, and then it was from my mother's sister's husband's last name. I've said this before. And then my middle name is from my mother's sister's husband's last name. And then, of course, my mother married my dad. That's my last name. So, but for me, I always wished my name would have been Scott. That was what my favorite name for me when I was growing up. I just liked the way you pronounce it, Scott, versus the Gary. I had hearing issues growing up, even to the point, even speech challenges because of my hearing. So the way I pronounce my name, people think I say Jerry, because it's like Gary or Geary, you know. So that's when I say my name. A lot of people will say, "Hey, Jerry." So it's all good, but the point is, it's the name. You're brought in this world, and I'm sure a lot of people relate with this. And even my name, the way my name is, back growing up, people made fun of me by using my name on how it was all spelt out and how they could call me, not in the most nicest way, type of person that wasn't who I was. So what does that have to do with all cars? Well, it has everything to do with all cars. Because who's Henry Ford? Well, Henry Ford, hello, is the Ford Motor Company. And what's really intriguing is, if you really do your research on all the real name brand products we have that revolve around cars and motorcycles, more so cars, you're going to see that the majority of these vehicles today that are named, the manufacturing was from an individual. So like Chevrolet was Louis Chevrolet back in like 1911 when Chevrolet was founded. So Mr. Chevrolet has lived on for the Chevrolet brand. Mr. Buick, same thing. The founder of Buick, they used his name. Mr. Oldsmobile, Mr. Oldsmobile, which is no longer around, but they used his name as a founder. And even to the point that Mr. Olds settled down there in Florida, right where we are, and created Oldsmar, Florida. That's a fact. Just so you know, that town, Oldsmar, Florida, is named after the founder of Oldsmobile. You go to, trying to think of, the Dodge brothers, the Dodge. So if you think about the Dodge, originally the Dodge brothers were like a parts company selling parts for manufacturers, and eventually they became a manufacturer of the Dodge product. Walt Chrysler is a gentleman that created Chrysler. So here's another guy back in the early 1900s that used his name to create the name Chrysler. Trying to think, Cadillac, actually, that was from a gentleman that actually named it after the French guy that built Detroit. I guess the last guy name, Delamonte Cadillac or something like that, I think. And then Pontiac actually is from the warrior, the Indian warrior from back in 1763, the British war against the Indians. Of the chief was named Pontiac, and so then I think you have Pontiac is the name of the town Pontiac. So they named Pontiac after the town of Pontiac, and from the former Indian tribe chief that fought the war with 300 men against the British. So think about that. I'm just here thinking off the tip of my tongue as I walk around with my coffee in my hand. Harley. It's all about the Harley, right? Okay, so the Harley Davidson. Who created that? Well, the three Davidson brothers and William Harley created their first, not they weren't the first motorcyclists, but the bicycle with the engine on it. And so the Davidson brothers came to conclusion that they would let Harley be the first name of the brand because Harley came up with the idea of putting a motor on a bicycle, supposedly, which I have speculation on that because in 1901, the Hendy, George Hendy, that created the Indian Motorcycle Company, that used to be Hendy Manufacturing, with his partner Oscar, he created the first 1901 motorcycle domestic side, not worldwide. So for the Harley brand, I thought that was pretty cool because that's anybody out there. Harley Davidson stands for William Harley's last name, and then, of course, the Davidson brothers' last name. And the brothers felt that Harley sounded more, you think about Davidson Harley or Harley Davidson. We're all used to Harley Davidson. Here in the shop with the Fast Johnny and ST. So, yeah, for Indian, I've talked about it before with all these Indian rugs where I've abused the Indian policy because there's only one Indian motorcycle sitting on this rug. So what's that all about, right? Shouldn't we all Harley rugs? Yeah, right, it should. So Indian, for the Hendy Manufacturing Company that was making bicycles and sewing machines or something like that, or bicycles, he took the word Indian for the country India. Because back in the early 1900s, the Indian name was really a recognized, very valued, very good quality product that so many people sought after. If it was made in India, people felt like they got a very good, valued product. So what the irony to all this is, the Indian name didn't come from the tribe of Indians in our country. The Indian name came from India's worldwide exporting, as George Hendy wanted to get bigger and be a worldwide known product and ship his product abroad. And he recognized that having an Indian name, it was more recognized over there in Europe and Asia, and it had more respect. So he took that name. But yet, if you look at the history of Indian, it's really plays to the Indian tribe of our country, to the point that George Hendy was like the I'm trying to think of the names. He and his partner had two different names, and then the dealer network was like the tribe. It's some things we'll have to kind of maybe go back to later to talk about that. Just a lot of information. So you have the different brands. So you have Mercedes-Benz. If you kind of go to Europe, you have Mercedes-Benz. Well, that was Carl Benz, which he took his name. And then you have the Daimler, and you have the Maybach names of those original car founders. Pretty incredible how the original car. So here's something to think about. Where did the word car, I mean, how come we have this name car? Where did that come from? Well, I talked about it last week of the chariot races with the Romans. And I think I talked about it last week. I just, so much information to share with others. And I don't have anybody behind the scenes giving me content or moderating my content. So anyways, the chariot, the cart, the car name came from the chariot in so many ways. It came from, in some ways, a four-wheel, but it isn't totally accurate because the cart was a two-wheel, the chariot was a two-wheel. But yes, apparently from the Latin word, which I don't know it, but that's where the car that would move something, that's where the name came from. And that's what's so incredible is for us car enthusiasts of all the different car brands. I just think to myself, apparently back like in 1797, I think was the first official per se car that was moved by steam power. And I think to myself, that individual, I think it was a French individual, could you ever imagine that he would have thought to himself one day what he created, and others at that same time, like it was 1809, I think the first internal combustion engine was actually designed, and the fuel it used wasn't gasoline. But that, I think that was like the first official combustion ICE engine, internal combustion engine, that was it on a bicycle? Was it on a three-wheel thing? I'm not real sure about all that. That kind of gets a little more, just so much information to start digging through, but it's great information if you start researching yourself, which you can, because there's just troves of information out there. But just thinking to myself, did those individuals ever think to themselves that one day there'd be 1 billion plus cars on the planet? That's a fact. There are 1 billion cars. I mean, it's mind-boggling. Think about what the car did. And that's what's really interesting for our country is if you go back to the early 1900s when Henry Ford took, in so many ways, Mercedes-Benz, Carl Benz production line assembly. So there's a few companies out there like Peugeot that had really original beginnings of bringing the production line for the manufacturing of cars. And Henry Ford is well known through the world that he mastered the manufacturing capability of being able to make cars to produce like a new Ford Model T every 15 minutes. I believe that was what he was accomplishing, and a more affordable car. And a running joke was back in the early 1900s, 1911, a Model T, what color do you want besides black? Because apparently the paint curing technology at that time, the black paint apparently cured the fastest, and they just didn't have the technology to be able to paint vehicles, different colors and process them so quickly because the Model T was such in demand that they were backlogged on orders, and to have to paint them different vehicles and the different technology, the different paints, they weren't able to do that. So that's why all the Model Ts were black because it was the fastest drying paint at that time. But as time progressed, they figured out other ways to make paint cure quicker. And that's why it changed. So for Carl Benz, he kind of gave, Henry Ford the opportunity to learn his. And that was nothing about Henry Ford. What he always talked about was he wasn't the smartest guy in the world. He just put himself around smart people. So even though Henry Ford was very successful, he understood, he took the talents of others and made himself look bigger and better, which that goes on all the time. I mean, look at Bill Belichick. You could argue about, did Tom Brady make Bill Belichick one of the most winningest coaches in the history of football, just about? Or did Bill Belichick make Tom Brady one of the winningest GOATs of all time? Yeah, it's all so it's a relationship, you know what I mean? So you go to the history of the cars, and this country here, believe it or not, we were way ahead of Europe back in the early 1900s. The real, truly great golden years of our country really began from Henry Ford, the Model T, and the likes of General Motors, of Cadillac, Chevrolet, Pontiac, GMC, Oldsmobile. Those were the true beginnings. Dodge, Chrysler, probably left somebody out of those. AMC. Oh, the Jeep. So where did the Jeep come from? So back in World War II, they had a general purpose vehicle, if you know what I'm talking about. It looked like there's an open Jeep. If you watch MASH with all the gang riding around the Jeeps, that Jeep name, where did the Jeep name originate? Who created that? Well, what they say is they called the Jeep back then, they didn't call it a Jeep. They called it a GP, general purpose vehicle. So many speculate that the Jeep name kind of evolved into Jeep because of you just saying GP. When others speculate it's a name of some individual for whatever. I don't even really know all about that. So kind of keep it going on the names. Then the Ram, you go to Dodge. I just talked about Dodge. Then you go to Ram, and the Ram truck really is the name from the Ram Air back in the 30s, late 30s, where Dodge was creating the Ram Air to get their engines to take in more oxygen to make them more powerful. So the Ram truck name was resurrected from the true beginnings of Dodge, of the Ram Air. And then the Jeep Cherokee. The Cherokee, of course, is related to the Indian tribe. And going back to there's a lot of information, so I kind of stumble around here because it's just great information to be hearing. If you think this, you do your own research, it is very intriguing. You go to Honda. Once again, Honda, and here's what's so classic. Have you ever heard about the rice burner? The rice burner. So think this through. Back in the day, 70s, it was like the true beginning that you'd hear the term, oh, those Hondas are just rice burners. Well, the reason that name came to be is because Honda, the original founder of Honda, his last name in Japanese means rice pad or rice fields. That's a fact. Look it up. So the reason people call these Hondas or the Japanese brand bikes rice burners is because Honda meant rice. Yes, production of rice. I think that's pretty classic. So you go to Toyota. It's like the original founder of Toyota was Toyoda. It was a DA instead of a TA. So there's another family name that's well recognized throughout the world. Trying to think. Triumph wasn't anybody's name. Triumph was more about success, victory, excellence. So the individual, I talked about the guy that founded Triumph so many years ago, back in the early 1900s, and the woes and the success and the failures. But Triumph isn't named after anybody. It's more of a symbol of great success. Kind of thinking of what other brands, and I probably have, so this is then what I thought about, is all these cars have names to them. So if you walk out here and you say, why did Dodge name the Challenger? Why did Dodge name the Charger? Well, the Challenger is a challenge. I mean, literally, Dodge named the Dodge Challenger to be a challenge to the Mustang and the Camaro. That's the only reason it's called the Challenger. The Dodge Charger, same thing. The Charger is actually a horse that's a very strong horse and a powerful horse. And that's just, basically the name of a Charger, being it's, it's strong and powerful, like an incredible horse is, that's going to win. You go to the Ford Mustang. It's so really not accurate of what the Ford Mustang came from, because it came from World War II P-51 Mustang bomber airplane. But yet, if you look at the grill, you'll see an icon of a horse implying a Mustang horse. But the true name of Mustang was developed from the P-51 bomber to resonate that name. So you got to wonder, why isn't there an airplane icon in front of the grill? So then they called it the pony car. And then you go to the Bronco. The Ford Bronco was in much disguise when it was being built, because it's supposed to be the four-wheel drive race car. And they just catered off of the Mustang, the horse, to the Bronco, the kicking Bronco. So that's how the Bronco name came to be, by just basically following in step with the Mustang. You have the Hellcat, the Scat Pack. The Scat has to do with get out of town, get out fast. The Pack has to do with the Rat Pack, the Frank Sinatra era. And so Dodge took that theme of the Rat Pack and called this the Scat Pack. And they claim through their advertising that the Scat Pack is the whole line of cars that does the quarter mile under 14 seconds. Super Bee didn't even look that one up, so I'm not, makes Super Bee, it's a Super Bee, right? Bees are fast. The Hellcat goes to the Hellcat fighter plane that was in I don't know if it was World War II, I think it was, but the Hellcat came from the fighter plane that was fighting the Mitsubishi, really, badass fighter plane back in the war. But so many people will say, no, Hellcat is that funky looking cat, that aggressive animal or whatever it is. I mean, so it's just interesting on how the original founders of these names and how people come up with these names, how they then put it into like an animal character or whatever you want to say, and versus the real reason they named the Hellcat, because it's a badass fighter plane, just like the Mustang. You go to the GT, so we walk out here, and you have the GT emblem on the car. Well, that means, from Carroll Shelby, that means Grand Touring or Grand Turismo. That's what that means. So, and then you go over here to but here's what's really interesting. When you think about the Ford Mustang product, and you think about the GT, the Grand Touring, or the Grand Turismo 350, and you think, how did Carroll Shelby come up with a GT 350 name? Apparently, when they were looking to relocate to build their Shelby cars, they went to a warehouse or a building, and his foreman counted off 347 steps, so he named the GT 350 after the warehouse, or the manufacturing plant. That's a fact. Then you go to the GT 500, and all Carroll Shelby did was he just raised the bar that the GT 500 is going to be more powerful than GT 350, so he really isn't anything behind GT 500. Besides, it's just the more powerful of the two cars. But then you go over here to the Dodge Challenger, and you have the RT. So if you go up here in the front of the grill, you'll see that it has an RT emblem in it, and that means that it's the road track car, which is that right here, road track. And then you go back to the motorcycles, and here motorcycles, you probably think, why does Harley Davidson call their motorcycle a Lowrider ST? Or why do they call the Fast Johnny an ST? Because it's called Sport Touring. So for Harley Davidson, they're saying that, hey, the Iceman just bought himself a Sport Touring motorcycle, and that's why they have the ST abbreviation to it. The CVO means Custom Vehicle Operations. But going back to the idea of where this country really had its golden age and golden years, is what's interesting is prior to, it wasn't until after really World War II that Europe really started taking on more of the car. They were still such the horse and buggy, traditional type of getting around compared to our country. So for us, the heyday years have really got this country from the Industrial Revolution and the automotive industry that just grew by a rapid pace in our country was really from the early 1900s through the 1950s into present times. The Americans were really far ahead of production and buying cars than the Europeans. The Europeans didn't come in until after World War II. And the devastation in Europe and Germany and England, you look at Japan, what we did to them with the atomic bomb. I mean, so they were in disarray for many years from the wars. So they had much more challenging times to get things built back to have an infrastructure of the manufacturing and taking care of things. So that's just one kind of no-brainer if you kind of know the history of the wars over in Europe between World War I, World War II, the devastation and just total, things being obliterated. So it took time for them to build things back. But meanwhile, in this country, we weren't being bombed and we had a much more solid infrastructure. And even back in the World War II, people know stories where auto production was shut down, that the manufacturers had to cater to building military equipment to go off to war. So I'm sure people understand that know the history of war and all. But the point is, the Americans really put the foothold in the car market and the car craze really before the Europeans, even though in so many ways the Europeans, like Carl Benz, really brought the car product to the marketplace. I didn't look up Bavarian Motor Works. So BMW, I just guess, is because cars were built over there in the Bavarian mountains or whatever, Bavaria or whatever of Germany. You talk about KTM. KTM was in Austria, Germany. They were a bicycle manufacturer. I think Penton. There's a story behind KTM. It's a great story from like Jack Piner, the Jack Piner guy that used to be the hair scrambler of the day back in the late 60s. In the early 70s, I had a Jack Piner 200 EXC KTM Blue back in 1997. A little salty. It was like $6,000 even back then. So you go here now, when we kind of get to today's present times, it's all about the name. And so now, like the Dark Horse. So when did the Dark Horse come to be? I think Dark Horse is rather new, a rather new name. Am I right or wrong on that? I think it is. I could be wrong. Anybody out there that has more information than me, love to hear your information. And then, as people know, how you take the name, and that's what happens to us. You have these names, and people get, in so many ways, so attached to the brand. I mean, I have friends that are GM people, will never be a Ford guy. I have people who are Ford people, will never be a GM guy. I have people who are Dodge people, will never be either one of those. Or if you talk to Iceman, he's all of them. He's all of them, right? I just like to have the flair of having an opportunity to drive whatever I can and own if it's the latest, coolest, greatest thing. Danger now is I found a red Camaro Z28 up in New York, low miles, not a lot more money than the Carvana deal, but I don't think he'll get financing. And what's even more dangerous, I just found a black Z28 Camaro local. Yes, within an hour's drive of my house at a dealership. Yes, but the challenge would be, can the dealership get me financing versus Carvana knows me, and it's their in-house, really aggressive financing that they're not the nicest to people, but they give me financing. Other companies, I think I'd be challenged. But that'd be so cool if this one, I already put an inquiry in to this one dealer that's like 5 hours away to get a red. I always wanted the red Camaro Z28. What's that all about? That's what I had my eyes on back in 2015, but I just couldn't justify the money for it. So the name's a brand, and that's what, and once again, we become brand loyal, brand addicted, because there's so many people on the channel make comments. Some people would never ever own a Harley Davidson for anything in the world. Others like the Goldwing. And once again, where did the Goldwing name come from? I don't. And here's the FTR. I don't even know. I'm guessing it's Flat Track Racing. That would be my guess of FTR. Here's the Rocket 3. What's the Rocket 3? I mean, the thing's like a rocket ship. What's the Lowrider? Then you get into the Softail, the Hardtail, the Street Glide, Road Glide. Where did Harley come up with all these different names? The Breakout. And for me, without me just spending hours and hours and hours of research and, but this is ideas for you as well. Why did Harley Davidson name this a Breakout? Where did the name come from? But here's some cool things. The selling dealer for the Fast Johnny here, he had in stock Chromeworks exhaust. He had in stock the Clockworks replacement windscreen, which gives you more of a flare so you can get the air off of you, but it still kind of keeps a really cool look. Believe it or not, Harley-Davidson kept these new motorcycles so under the wraps that the aftermarket guys are way late in the game because they just didn't know what they were going to have to work with. So apparently, I could be wrong, but Billy, my good friend up there at the Harley, he's saying that there's so much stuff on this bike you can't get yet because they're working behind the scenes and getting stuff for it. But I have a hard time believing that because my bike came out 2023 last year, of August of last year. But I haven't really looked into it. But so anyways, here is the new windscreen. Here's the rear crash bars or rear saddlebag bars, which I think it's all important. If you ever lay the bike down, any protection you have to be able to protect that. But now, Billy claims there isn't anything for this, I think. I could be wrong, could have misunderstood him on that. On the Fast Johnny and the CVO ST. My daughter bought me a Gremlin Bell. So here it is. Here's one of them she bought. She thought that would be a cool theme. And once again, a Gremlin Bell, this is your angel. This is your angel looking over you as you ride your motorcycle. But then she got this one. She didn't think I'd like it, but I thought it's pretty creative because it has the red in that Gremlin Bell, which kind of goes with the theme of the bike. So I thought it was very creative. So the point of that is you put that underneath your bike, and you just only can hope that God is with you every time you get on your bike. Because boy, oh boy, we all know the stories. And sadly, a year ago today, my nephew died on a motorcycle 1 year ago today. Hard to believe. It's already a year later that my nephew passed on a motorcycle accident. Wow. Wow, right? Just incredible. All right, it's cold, and it's getting to be long. I got to get up here. I got a busy day. Got a lot of things going on. I got a gentleman coming by to buy my tractor, and I'm so glad I held out on not giving away my tractor and trading it in. Come on, Keith, let's go. And so I've got a good deal on that, which is great. So that kind of makes it now make more sense to sell that and to get my new 3046 John Deere tractor. So I was saying this other day that here's Kiefer. He'll be shoving all over me. So I gotta get this down here, get in the saddle. Haven't coughed yet. Probably will. Made my coffee a little stronger today, so I didn't have to drink it as much. Hey, Jesus Christ. That dog, it just doesn't end, man. Here, wear your butt out. The concern is, we're going to Florida. I finally got a chance to break away to see my mother and my family. But oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm doing Kiefer. I don't know. That's a challenge. My parents don't have a big house, so I don't know. That's a whole nother adventure. What do we take down and blah blah blah. A lot of variables on that, and so we'll just have to kind of think that through. Hopefully, but here's the irony: I'd probably leave this weekend, but the Carvana deal is supposed to come Saturday, but I don't know. I mean, if this dealer out in come on, stop it. If this dealer local was able to get me financing, I'd probably go up there. Stop it. Come on, guys. Just stop fighting. I'd probably, I would probably do a deal local, and then I wouldn't be stuck here waiting for Saturday to leave. Hey, bud, you are so out of control. He so wants attention this morning. He's just like wound up, like you can't believe. Or if I got the deal out of New York, I don't know, I would maybe just say wait till I get back home to deliver it to me. I don't know. A lot of variables, but here's the great news. Today, if I have time, I'm going to try to go drive that car that's local, and then I'll know a lot better. I'll be able to drive and go, you know what? This is a really cool car. I'll be like, you know what? It isn't just really tickling my fancy, and I'm out. I'll go focus on something else. So that's the next project. Oh, that's a good point. So where did like the Z06 Zora, one of the creators of the Corvette? So Z06, and then where's like the Corvette name? Corvette is it's a battleship. It was a small, apparently warship. That's where they got the name Corvette. Where GM thought about the new sports car be a cool name, was a wartime military vessel. But then where did the Z06 come about? Z06 was actually just a code. The Z was a code for ZO. It was in 6 was a special code to build the Corvette with more horsepower, bigger, I think, brakes and tires. I mean, there's a lot more to it than I'm really, all in depth on. But Zorro was credited for the Z06 term, and it was only built in '63. It wasn't brought back, I think, until like the, late 90s when they brought the Z06 back, or the Z51. I don't know, it kind of gets a little more. But the Z06, it disappeared for quite a while. And I've had a bunch of Z06s. I'm sure a lot of people, why don't you get a Corvette? I've had so many Corvettes. That's the only reason I'm on the Camaro side. I only had a 1978 Corvette back like in 1983. And I really didn't like it. I ended up giving it to my sister. I just didn't like the car. So I can't, no, it was in 83, probably like 84. I just can't remember. But it's just that there's no power. It just is an automatic. So that's why some reaching out, why don't you go, Sam? It's just a change up. Get a Z06. They're so expensive. It's just hard to justify to put all that money in a car. It's like, truck is one thing. So anyway, so that's what the Z06. And then there was another one that I was thinking about where you think like the Datsun 240Z, the 260Z, 280Z. What was the 240? Was that a 2400cc motor? Then a 2600cc? I mean, I'm not sure. I didn't look it up. 2.4 liter motor? I don't know. I didn't look up that information. Things that you can look up on your own and figure it out, because it's all these cars have the different names and the different brands have their different models for what you get your flair, what you can afford, right? I mean, good Lord. All right, I think that's pretty much it, even though the craziness of the times right now, this whole border bill spending thing, and oh my gosh, yeah. I just don't even feel like talking about it. I'm just done. That's it. I'm cutting off. I get too busy a day, too much talking. I really appreciate everybody watching my channel, and we have a whole other day of what do I talk about tomorrow, right? Whole nother adventure. I get it, but I enjoy it, and I enjoy sharing my information, and I hope everybody gets something out of it. And I like when people reach back out and clarify things and give me information. That's awesome. I appreciate it. And as always, hey, ask for an Ice Age TV sticker and Ice Age TV comments at gmail.com. Ice Age TV comments at gmail.com. And do I start hiding money in my videos? And if you figure out where it is, you get some money. Haven't done that yet. I mean, this channel isn't that lucrative. If I had to rely on this channel to actually pay my bills, you'd see me down at the homeless shelter. If you think I'm making that up, yeah, people make more money in 1 week than I make in a whole month just from getting the handouts from the government if you're an illegal. Yeah, that'd be unbelievable. Maybe that's what I'd be doing. I should take my other side and be a fake immigrant, illegal, and then I just act like I'm living somewhere. I get $600 a week or something like that. Or is it $600 a month? I don't even know. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. God bless. Stay tuned. Do you see a Camaro Z28 adventure or me test drive one? Maybe. It's possible. So have a great day.